Good. The year, as 2013 was ushering out, and we were ushering in 2014, on the television, I was watching, Dick Clark's Rocket New Year's Eve, and they talked about the gift of the imagination as a theme for the year 2014, the gift of the imagination. What was interesting about that for me is I had a topic chosen for this evening and had changed it just about a week or so before to talk about the imagination. So that was a bit of a confirmation for me to go in that direction, to talk about the gift of the imagination. How powerful of a gift is the imagination? It's an awesome gift that was given to us by our Creator so that we could propel us. Our gift of imagination can propel us into the future, can propel us to our success, can propel us to accomplish the goals and dreams that we have in our hearts. Because as there was a speaker, Louis Timberlake, and he said this at an event one time, he said, God does not give us dreams to taunt us. Those dreams were placed in our heart for a reason, and we're to fulfill those dreams. We're to walk those dreams out. The imagination is one of the tools. It was said in an article that I read, it was said that the imagination is a power tool for us to use. A power tool to use to propel us towards our future. The imagination, it's an awesome gift that we have to use to get us to the future that we desire in our hearts. Now there's two aspects to the imagination, just like any other gift. There's a challenging side to that. It's not so much that there's a negative side to the imagination, but there is in fact a negative application of the imagination. And we'll talk about that as well a little bit, and then talk about how we'll use the imagination to propel us into the future. Now the imagination, there was a study done at Harvard University, and what they did was they took three groups of individuals. They took one group of individuals and they put them in a room with a piano, and they gave them intensive lessons for 5 days. Intensive lessons for 5 days. There was a second group, they didn't give them any lessons, they just put them in a room with a piano. I call that the chill group. They were chilling. But there was a third group. The third group was put into a room with a piano, and they were told to simply imagine themselves playing the piano well. Just imagine, if you will. Now the first group at the end of 5 days, they were able to play the piano rudimentarily, how does that say? Somebody help me out. In a rudimentary fashion, if you will. They were able to play. The second group, as you would expect, they couldn't play a lick. Probably playing like me, because I've never played the piano. They couldn't play a lick. The third group was very interesting, because the third group they found could play almost as well as the group that had received 5 days of intensive training. Isn't that interesting? There's a more interesting aspect to that as well. What happened was they did a brain scan. You know how they say as you learn new things, your brain gets wired for your new experience? It kind of gets wired into there like a pathway, if you will, for our brain, our thought patterns. They did a scan of the folks that had the first group who had the 5 days of intensive lessons, and they found, wow, yeah, we can see that their brains have changed in an area where your ability to play the piano lies within your brain. The second group, of course, there was not much change at all, certainly in that area. But the third group, what was interesting is the third group's brain was very much like the first group. So the imagination had caused a physiological change in their brains. The imagination is a phenomenal gift that we've been given. It's not just something for fanciful thinking, it's something for us to manifest change in our lives. The dictionary definition of imagination, in fact, is the forming of a mental image that is not yet perceived to be real to our five senses. We all know it's not real, but we've pictured it. You guys have pictured things in your minds. You guys are, a lot of you are entrepreneurs and things of this nature, business owners, small business owners, you're creating organizations. You've seen these things. You've seen the manifestation in your mind. I'm looking at Galino, I know he can see it. There's things that you guys see. You see your organizations touching lives, having more clients, reaching more people, helping more individuals, impacting more lives. You see yourself doing these things, but it has not yet manifested. The imagination. I told you there's a sort of like a negative side to the imagination, if you will, or a negative application. So instead of using the imagination to propel us into the future, we can actually use our imaginations to propel us backwards or to repel us from our success. How do we do that? There's a story in the Bible about the children of Israel. And the children of Israel were about to go into their promised land. And I promise I won't preach a sermon. So you don't have to get the offering ready. Hold on that. But the children of Israel were about to go into Canaan land. They were about to go into the promised land. And they were to send 12 spies into the promised land. And they sent the 12 spies to check out the land. Now with any group, you send back a group of people and they all have different ideas about what they just saw, even though they all saw the same thing. But what was interesting is they all pretty much agreed that it was good land, but they disagreed with what they could do with it. Now one group said, hey, we can take this land at once. We can overtake the inhabitants and take this land at once, and it'll be ours. But then the other group said, whoa, wait a minute. They said, wait, we can't take that land. There's giants in the land. We can't take that land. Now, at the end of that particular text, as the people were giving the message that has become known as the negative report, or the one that said that they can't get or they can't take the land, at the end it says, and we were as grasshoppers in our own sight, and so there we were in their sight. So, what they're saying is, it's not so much that the giants saw them and said, there's grasshoppers. They saw themselves as grasshoppers and subsequently projected that image over to the giants so that they would perceive them as grasshoppers. Again, the definition of the imagination is forming a mental image that is not perceived as real to the senses. Now, I would tell you that there's no way that those characters in that story perceived that they were in fact insects. They didn't perceive that to be real. They used their imagination to keep them. As a matter of fact, that very thought caused them not to, those very individuals never walked, they saw the promised land. They never got to participate in the fullness of that because of how they perceived themselves. They allowed their imaginations to take them away from their promised land. Isn't that something? The imagination, again, is a very powerful gift. We can use it to propel us forward, or we can actually allow it to repel us from where it is we want to be. There was a guy who, he's a speaker, and for the life of me, I forgot to look up his name, so I apologize for this. But he tells the story of how he would coach people. He was sort of doing like life coaching, if you will, or maybe success coaching, sort of like some of what I do. But I don't really use vision boards like this, but now I feel like I should. But what he did was he had this vision board, and on the vision board, if you guys are maybe not familiar with it, on the vision board you put pictures of things that you hope to accomplish, right, or achieve, or maybe obtain even. So you have your dream house, your dream car, whatever, the things that to you would represent success in your life. He put all of those things on this dream board, and he packed that dream board away, or vision board if you will. He packed it away in a box. 8 years later, his 6-year-old son is now sitting on his box because they have moved into a new home. So he's looking at, his son is sitting on a box, and you know how kids like to swing their feet, and he's kicking this box, and he says, Dad, what's in this box? So he starts to explain to his 6-year-old what a vision board is, and realizes, I don't want to try to explain this to a 6-year-old. He said it'd be better to just show him what it is, so he'd have an appreciation for it. So he opens up the box, he unpacks the box, and he takes out the vision board. And he puts up the vision board, and he's about to explain it to his son, where suddenly he realizes the house on the vision board was the very house he had just moved into. He never realized it. He never knew that that was that house. He said when he put that house on the vision board, he had no idea what state the house even existed in. He had moved to 2 different states. It's an incredible example of just how powerful the imagination really is. The imagination, it's the thing that takes us, that's going to take us from where we are to where we want to be. But how do we go from one to the other? Well, we bridge the gap between where we are and where we want to be simply with goals. Or at least that's usually how I help people understand that. They make the connection, but we put goals in place to help you bridge the gap from one to the other so that it stops being a dream and becomes something that you're actually walking across to receive. That's what you want to do. You want to engage your imagination in such a way. Use your imagination very differently than you have in the past. You want to engage your imagination. You want to engage your imagination and use it intentionally. A lot of times we use our imagination in other ways, but we don't intentionally engage our imagination to arrive at the level of success that we desire. So I'm encouraging you all to use your imagination to propel you in the right direction. And let me step back for just a second. When I talked about the fact that our imaginations can repel us, one of the things I neglected to say to you guys is some of the reasons why our imaginations will repel us is because someone has spoken something negative into your life. They've told you that you couldn't do it. You can't be what it is you think you want to be. You can't do the things you feel like you're called to do. You can't do it. You're too short. You're too tall. You're too fat. You're too skinny. You're too dark. You're too light. There's always something. There's always something that some label someone wants to hang on you to say why it is you can't do whatever your imagination says you can do. But I'm going to encourage you and I'm going to tell you our human experience, virtually limitless. Now, we have a choice of how we use our imagination. I'm going to encourage you guys to take those images that are in our mind, those things that people have said that you couldn't do, couldn't accomplish, couldn't be, couldn't have. Take those things, put those things aside, because you have control over your imagination. Unlike the song by the Temptations, you guys remember that song? It's just my imagination. Look at her, she all in it. But in the song, in the verse, or in the chorus, if you will, it says, my imagination was running away with me. Well, don't let your imagination run away with you. Use your imagination to go to where you want it to go. So if you can drive your imagination, choose to drive it in a direction that's going to take you towards your dreams as opposed to moving away. So you have a choice as to whether or not you want to believe the things that people have poured into you or said to you in the past, or tried to, or have said to you in the past that has hindered you up to this time. A lot of times when I get a chance to coach people, one of the things that I find is that folks often have a reason why they're not where they want to be. We all have some kind of reason. Oh man, they didn't hire me because of this, or something else happened, or I don't have a college degree so I couldn't do this or that. You know, I've met people, we all know the story of Bill Gates. Bill Gates has no college degree. There's Michael Dell. There's a whole bunch of people that are multi-billionaires that don't have college degrees, so that's never the cause for your lack of success. It's always going to be about how it is you're perceiving yourself, and then what it is, how you perceive yourself is really going to control how you use your imagination. Because if you perceive yourself, again, as a grasshopper, you're going to operate like a grasshopper. If you perceive yourself as a giant, you'll operate that way. In this case, as a person with vision and a gifted individual, you should be operating from that capacity. And in closing, Impact, I want to share with you just what Impact is. Impact is an organization that was formed to help entrepreneurs get to where they want to be and help them, assist them in the formation of whether it's their goals and dreams, or just to help propel people to their intended result. We all have a purpose. We're all put here for a reason. I know everyone has their different beliefs, but the fact of the matter is we didn't get here on our own. There's a reason we all fit together. There's no coincidence that we're all in this room together right now. So there's purpose in it. So walk out your purpose. I encourage you to walk out your purpose. Be the best that you can be. Reach as many clients as you can reach. Impact as many lives as you can. Heal as many people as you can. Touch as many lives as you can. Be the best that you can be. The Lion King was in Philadelphia a number of years ago. Maybe even, I don't know if they swung back through recently, but there was an article where they talked about the Lion King, and they said, oh, you know, Disney's Lion King is full of characters, both fanciful and real characters. And it said that the lion in the Lion King is mighty, but the imagination is king. And I tell you, entrepreneurs, your gifts and your talents are mighty, but your imagination is king.